Many people may not be aware that Russia, like other major economies, now has a modernized manufacturing sector that can produce local brand of modern cars, including some luxury models, passenger planes and helicopters, mobile devices, luxury boats, watches, among others. All the items Russia is able to produce are very much comparable to what is produced elsewhere in the world in terms of quality or level of sophistication, as will be shown in this video. What Russia under Putin has been able to produce in its modernized industrial sector that is part of its rapidly expanding and increasingly diversified economy. The diversified Russian economy is now able to produce modern high-end and mass-market cars, civilian planes and helicopters, luxury boats, among other branded high-value products. For instance, before President Putin started the drive to modernize and increase local production in Russia, nearly all high-end cars, including the president's official car, were imported from foreign countries. The official presidential limousine used by President Putin, which was a model of Mercedes-Benz, German brand, has since been replaced by locally made model of Urus, Russian luxury car brand. Since 2014, the Russian economy has undergone major changes. The changes in the economy are guided by President Putin's policy of import substitution that was aimed at replacing foreign goods that Russia has been importing from Europe and other parts of the world. Because of sanctions, for instance, the first wave of heavy sanctions that were imposed on Russia in 2014 by the West after it had annexed Crimea. Most companies in the West stopped exporting various goods to Russia, and as a result Russia experienced major shortages of important products like imported cheeses, fruits, and vegetables. This inspired President Putin to start promoting local production of many items within Russia to replace imports. The policy of import substitution initiated by Putin was not just aimed at increasing the production of manufactured industrial goods. It was also targeted at increasing the production of agricultural food products like cheeses, fruits, and vegetables. This partly explains why Russia has been able to withstand relatively recent second wave of heavy sanctions that were imposed on it by the West after it invaded Ukraine in 2022. Because of many false Western media reports, many people may not be aware that Russia has a sophisticated economy and an industrial base that is comparable to what can be found in Western Europe. Indeed, Russia has great advantages over most European nations because it is a huge country, the largest country in the world, with abundant natural resources that can support its manufacturing sector. For instance, Germany, which is the largest economy in Europe, for many years relied very heavily on imported oil and natural gas from Russia to power its industries. As a result of sanctions that were imposed on Russia by the EU and the United States that reduced the supply of Russian gas to Europe and Germany after Russia invaded Ukraine, the economy of Germany has seen a rapid decline. Over the years, including very recently, media campaigns in the West have been focused on, among other things, spreading false information about Russia with the aim of creating a false perception that Russia is a very insignificant struggling economy that produces nothing apart from outdated Soviet-era weapons for exports to developing nations. Russia has also been portrayed as a poorer East European country that happens to be a regional power owing to nothing else but its nuclear weapons. One that heavily relies on meager income derived from its exports of low-value natural resources like oil, gas, metals, among others, while lacking an industrial base. The media in the West rarely mentions that Russia is a country with an economy that is just as sophisticated as any other in Europe. Or the fact that it is a country with sufficient technological prowess to produce not just basic goods and services but also expensive items targeted at buyers in the middle class as well as the very wealthy of society. For instance, Russia has industries that can produce a variety of finished products and components. These may include stuff like luxury watches, passenger helicopters, passenger planes, trucks, cars, and the list continues. Apart from consumer goods, Russia has a large sector of heavy industries that includes modern shipyards, production facilities for heavy rocket engines, as well as facilities for the production of heavy machinery or capital equipment. Despite the heavy sanctions that were imposed on Russia, it has become the fifth largest economy in the world as well as the largest in Europe in terms of purchasing power parity. According to recent statistics, it is now ranked at number 5 globally with a value of $5.32 trillion and has now surpassed Germany, which is valued at $5.3 trillion. It is now very clear that sanctions that have been imposed on Russia since 2014 have proved to be a blessing in disguise for Russia. Since 2014, major policies aimed at modernizing the economy of Russia have been formulated and implemented to increase the robustness of Russian economy. In other words, Putin has deliberately taken major steps to delink the Russian economy from the West and in the process made Russia less vulnerable to hostile actions initiated by the West targeted at destroying the economy of Russia. The ambitious reforms initiated by Putin have so far revolutionized the Russian industrial and agricultural sector. All facets of industry have been changed. For instance, under these policies, the dairy sector was rejuvenated and modernized to increase the supply of dairy products like cheeses that were previously imported in bulk from European nations like Italy before 2014. President Putin also revived and modernized Russian pharmaceutical sector to reduce dependency on imported drugs and therapeutics. In reality, it is the European exporters that had decided to boycott the Russian market that ended up with huge losses considering that the bulk of what they produced was sold in Russia. Sanctions have in fact served as a wake-up call for a once sleeping giant called Russia. If anything, what should be feared by the Europeans is not Russia's military superiority but economically independent or self-sufficient Russia. That is because Russia has the potential of becoming a major competitor that could erode, among other things, the huge market shares that the West have had for decades with regards to foreign trade when it comes to finished industrial products. Losing market shares to Russia could have serious consequences for Western Europe in terms of jobs and living standards among its populations.
You've seen it before, you've heard all about it, but it's our first hands-on experience in the United States with the Yotaphone 2, one of the most innovative smartphones to come out of 2014. I'm Michael Fisher at CES 2015 for Pocket Now. Join us for a quick hands-on.